Hello everyone, it's a glorious morning here. It's a bank holiday, it's Good Friday today. Nobody's allowed out because of the lockdown, so what better time to get a brew on? As I mentioned in a previous video, my father-in-law had taken a liking to the White Shield clone that I did, and the keg kicked on that yesterday, so need to get that filled up and yeah, get another brew on so that I can put something back in there, but also keep the father-in-law happy. So yeah, this is going to be a grain to glass video. Let's go and check out the recipe and some brew footage. Okay, so this is going to be a fairly simple best bitter recipe. It is my own recipe, although there's a little bit of a nod in the construction of it towards Fuller's London Pride, so you can find the recipe for that online, and it's in the camera book that I also used for the White Shield clone. So it's not exactly the same as that, but it's there's some similarities to it anyway in terms of the hops and the grist. I'm trying out some new pale ale malt that I've got in at the moment. So it's some Warminster pale ale malt. I've heard good things about this maltster. They're a very small kind of craft maltings in the UK. All their stuff is kind of floor malted, so very traditional methods and so on. The malt itself smelt and tasted great out of the bag, and yeah, the mash, which is already on down here, is smelling really good too. So I'm doing a 19-litre batch of this. I've got 3.4 kilos of the Warminster malt going in. Then we've got just shy of 9% total crystal malt, which is split between 200 grams of light medium crystal, which is 45 Lovibond or 90 EBC, and then 100 grams of dark crystal at 240 EBC. Just a tiny little bit of chocolate malt in there as well, so 20 grams of chocolate malt just to get the colour there. So I want a nice kind of deep amber, almost bordering on red colour with this one. And that's the malt bill, so that should give us an OG of 1044. We are aiming for around 4.4%-ish or 4.3% at a 19-litre batch size. Yeah, so that's our gravity from the grist. Then the hops, as I said, a little bit of a nod to Fuller's London Pride here with the hop schedule. So we've got some Goldings and Northdown, 20 grams of Goldings at 60 minutes. We've also got 10 grams of Northdown at 30 minutes, and then 15 grams of Goldings and 10 grams of Northdown at 5 minutes left in the boil, and that's it. So no dry hopping on this, very straightforward, traditional kind of bitter recipe. And I'm going to be fermenting this out with London Ale 3, which is the yeast that I used again on the White Shield one. So I've basically built up another starter off of the remains of the one that I made for that beer. So that's it. I think I've covered everything there. So you've got all the vital statistics. OG 1044, expected final gravity 1011, which should give us 4.3%. We will have 37 IBUs, so again, it's a bitter, so I want the bitterness fairly up there, and colour of 23 EBC according to the calculator. Yeah, so that's it. Let's get this brew on and see what happens. Right then, there we have the finished product. So as you can see, it's looking very nice in the glass. Lovely clarity on it. Nice sort of tight white head on the top. And just, yeah, it looks like a nice pint of English bitter. So it's ticked the boxes appearance wise. Yeah, I love the colour on that. I like that sort of deep kind of amber, almost getting towards red kind of colour. Then on the aroma, it smells like a traditional English ale, really. So it's got that slight earthy kind of almost woody note from the English hops that you get sometimes. I think the North Down in particular seems to give me a little bit of that. It does remind me a little bit of kind of Fuggles in terms of the sort of flavour and aroma profile from those hops. And a little bit of kind of malt, caramel malt on there. It was 9% caramel malt in this, so yeah, you'd expect that to be there in the sort of flavour and the aroma. In terms of how the beer came out numbers wise, it was a little bit higher gravity than predicted, so the Warminster malt seemed to give me a little bit of a bump on the efficiency. So that came out, I think it was 1047, so it came out 3 points above the target at 1047. The final gravity was actually a little bit higher though as well, so the yeast didn't quite attenuate out as much as I was expecting. So in the end it ended up about 4.5%, so it was only slightly above the target ABV anyway, which is fine. Anyway, so yeah, the head retention is okay. The head has dropped back a little bit on that since I've been chatting, but it's still holding a nice little white cap on the top, and it seems to have some decent lacing on the glass as well. But let's get a little taster of it and see what it's like. Yeah, so I'm really pleased with this, to be honest. I've already dropped a load of it round to the father-in-law, so Barry's pleased with it too, which I'm sure you'll be pleased to know. I'm sure we'll be back for some more of it fairly soon as well. But yeah, the flavour is, again, just tastes like a nice traditional real ale to me. So there's some caramel there from the dark and the medium crystal malt, which is quite nice. A little bit of a sort of toffee-ish flavour on there, but not too prominent. I don't really get on with caramel malts when they're really cloying, but this is it's there, but it's not overly sweet. There's a good sort of rich kind of grainy nutty base from the Warminster malt. I think again that's come out really well, so I'm quite pleased with how that's worked in this beer, not just for the efficiency but for the flavour as well. And then the hops, as I said, there's that kind of slightly earthy, grassy kind of hedgerow English hop flavour. There's a little bit of fruitiness there as well, maybe a touch of sort of raisiny flavour that might be slightly emphasised by the darker crystal as well, which can sometimes give you those kind of flavours too. And there's maybe like a hint of a kind of fig-like flavour to it too. It's really nice. It's really sessionable. And yeah, I don't think this keg is going to last very long at all, because between myself and the father-in-law drinking it, it's going to go down pretty quick. So yeah, the other thing to mention about this one is the yeast in this. So the London Ale Free yeast, I've used this yeast on this one. I used it on the White Shield clone. I also used it on the oatmeal stout that I've done recently, and it's been really good. I'm sort of considering using this a lot as almost like a house yeast. I do tend to swap around the yeast that I'm using quite a lot, but this particular yeast seems to be performing really well in whatever kind of beer I throw it at. And as well as the more traditional English beers like this and the stout and so on, it's also being used a hell of a lot by craft breweries in your sort of hazy New England IPAs and juicy pale ales and all that sort of stuff as well. Mainly I think because the ester profile seems to promote those sort of fruity flavours a lot, and it just kind of gives the beer a really nice sort of mouthfeel and body as well to it. I think it's there's almost like a slightly sweet kind of, maybe even just a hint of sort of vanilla from it I get on the esters as well, which I think again seems to sort of work really well with a lot of the flavours that people are putting into those beers with the big fruity hops too. But equally working great with traditional English ales. So yeah, if you haven't tried that yeast out, I would recommend giving it a go. It's the Wyeast 1318 London Ale Free. It's also sold by a few other brands, I think. Can't remember if there's a White Labs version or what the number is for that, but the Imperial Yeast juice strain that they do is supposedly the same stuff as well, and I've used that too, and it's been really good as well. So yeah, that's the beer. Nice recipe that. I think I'll definitely do that again, or a variation of that, and I'll certainly be using the London Ale Free again for more bitters. Cheers.
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, you know, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.